Welcome everybody to DRB University. This is the SiteWatch overview course that we offer once a month as part of DRB University's SiteWatch Basics learning path. I just want to very quickly talk about what we're going to talk about today. Today, this is a very high overview of SiteWatch, right? So we're going to talk about what is SiteWatch? What does SiteWatch do? What are the different things that we can see in SiteWatch? What are some of the terminals that are part of what we consider SiteWatch? What are those physical pieces that are part of those, and what are they used for? And we'll also talk about some other tools and integrations that go along with SiteWatch as well. What I want to talk about today, right, very broadly, is what is SiteWatch, right? And I'm sure you guys have an idea of what SiteWatch is, but I want to talk about like some of the ins and outs of things in terms of like the big key ideas, what makes SiteWatch the point of sale that it is, like why people choose SiteWatch, and I want to talk about some of the different like features that make it up. Right? So like SiteWatch is our legacy Windows-based point of sale. Okay? So it means that it actually lives on site on a server computer, right? And all the terminals that are used for all the different workflows at a site will talk to each other to accomplish different tasks. Right? And, we think about, why do I have a point of sale? What's the reason for a point of sale? Why does a car wash need a point of sale? Part of the reason is to, collect information about transactions, to process credit cards, but a lot of it's based off of like workflows, right? Point of sales help enable some of the workflows that we have in order to run smoothly. And we also have, it has a pretty robust reporting setup too. So like all that kind of collecting transactions gives us a lot of really good information about like how our car wash is doing. You may be familiar with StatWatch, right? That's a cloud-based or a web-based type of reporting system that pulls information from SiteWatch. There's also SiteWatch Web, which is like another way of doing that, right? We'll talk a little bit about those. And of course, like part of all the workflow stuff is the ability to interface with an e-commerce solution, to interface with things like gas pumps, like to be able to have like somebody at a gas pump be able to say, do you want to wash today? And they say yes, and it prints them a code that can be used directly at the wash. And also the tunnel controller, right? We sell a tunnel controller called TunnelWatch, which will, when SiteWatch hands over the information to TunnelWatch, right? SiteWatch does all that for you based off what's sold in the sale, right? So whatever items they choose, either at a kiosk or an attendant terminal, an attendant selects for them, are going to be the items that they get in any sort of automated system. Okay. In terms of like those workflows and like where, like how the workflows work, the key kernel of that is the types of terminals that you see and are used in different places throughout the car wash. Probably the most basic of which would be things like attended terminals, right? This is what we call a TST, or a touchscreen terminal, typically used in a full service type of environment inside, right? So this would be like, I want to have a lobby where people are be able to buy stuff or pay for their wash. I might have a PosiFlex here, right? There's a lot of cool features with these two. They're very secure. They're write protected. They're very thin. They boot up really fast. Very thin in terms of like they're like what they need to run and to start. Okay. They have a customer-facing display that can be used in SiteWatch to show people like their cart when they're purchasing, what their total is going to be. Makes it a lot simpler, especially for full service where I may have a detail which includes all these different things. What's all included in the detail? I can display it for the customer. There's also these outdoor touch terminals, or OTTs, that are used in attended lanes outside or semi-attended lanes, like is pictured here. A semi-attended lane is kind of like a members only lane, right? Customer can pull right up to where there's a gate, and the gate goes up once they've been correctly identified through a customer identification system like FastPass or FastID. OTTs, they're pretty rugged. They're not waterproof, but they're very water resistant. They're used as loader terminals. They're used as These kinds of like outdoor terminals, they can be out in the sun a little bit. They can get a little bit wet, like a splash of water. They use like a special mil-spec connector to protect the ports and things like that from water. So very robust little terminals. Sometimes we don't need all that. We don't need a specialized touchscreen, especially in some of the cases where we have multi-profit center setups like a lube in a wash or a store in a wash. SiteWatch can support those kinds of workflows. It's pretty broad. Those might be done with something like a manager workstation or what we call a PCT, just a PC terminal, right? Using a keyboard and mouse in a monitor that could or could not be a touchscreen monitor. You can have all those different types of things, right? And this is using you see right there, it's got an EMV solution pictured with it as well, right? This is an EMV card reader, right? So at an attended type of terminal, SiteWatch can have different kinds of payment solutions, including those chip and pin payments. We also see at full services, but now in Express too, we see tablets used a lot, right? This is what we call the TTT, or the tablet touch terminal. These tablets run the same software that all these other computers have run, which we call the terminal controller, or the TC. That's the client program that's for SiteWatch that allows me to, as a user at the site, to ring sales and to be able to add extra things into the sale, look up a customer, fix something on a customer's account, troubleshoot issues that are going on, print receipts. All these different things can be done from these terminals. The tablet terminals make them mobile, right? Tablet terminals do require a specific wireless infrastructure at the site in order to work properly, but they can enable workflows like having a greeter who shows up and they basically pre-sell to the customer, give them slips in a kind of a full service sales environment, or with kiosks, right? If I have XPTs, Express Pay terminals, I can pre-sell in an express kind of situation where the customer pays before they get to the XPT, and when they get to the XPT, they just scan their receipt. The gate will go up and put them into queue in a normal kind of way, right? Or I can not accept payment. They can scan the receipt at the XPT and pay at the XPT to be entered into the queue to be washed. Pretty cool stuff. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about special terminals, right? That kind of don't fit into those sort of terminal controller setups. Number one being the XPT, right? The XPT is, in the world of car washing, the fastest growing car wash type is an express exterior car wash. Almost all the car washes being built right now are tunnels with kiosks. The XPT is a special kiosk in that it comes in many different configurations based off of different cash acceptance and dispensing, right? Like the one pictured here is a bill accepting and dispensing one only. They can accept bills, or you can have a cash version. There's also the capability to dispense gift cards, accept credit card payments, scan barcodes on phones or on receipts. They have big 15-inch touchscreens. And with SiteWatch, especially, the workflows at the XPTs can be customized pretty heavily to both a self-service type of environment, which we kind of know kiosks to be, or as what's becoming more common every day is an attended kiosk environment, right? Kiosks, maybe in the late 80s and the early 90s, people thought of kiosks as, well, I can't have someone there. It allows unattended access. And then there was sort of a thought like, maybe I can replace some labor at the car wash with an XPT. I don't think those things have quite panned out the way that they thought they might, right? An XPT does, however, control cash acceptance, right? If I'm a person at a car wash, I don't have to handle cash because the XPT can handle the cash for me, which is empowering to the people on site. It means that I can be focused on just customer service type of issues, and I don't have to worry about the things having to deal with cash like I may have in the past. Okay. XPTs, very flexible, very powerful, very robust, right? The XPTs, they have this even in like crazy climates, very, very hot, very, very cold. We do recommend having a canopy in hot places, but they have this plastic shroud that helps insulate them a little bit from both hot and cold. It actually has air circulated throughout the shroud to help provide a basic layer of protection against those extremes. We also have the CarPix terminal, which is like an OTT in that it's like an outdoor touchscreen and it's a larger version of it. But the CarPix terminal is like a loader terminal that's been like turned up to 11 and allows in an express workflow the ability to see what's going on at each of the pay stations. I can see my queue visually based off of pictures taken of the cars as they enter into the lane. And I can also do things like add retracts right from here. I can add flags, like if I think a car is mismatched, like this person is redeeming a plan and the car is not the plan that they originally had, I can display all that here. CarPix terminals are really, really neat, right? You can display special messages just on the CarPix terminal based off of like what's happening at an XPT. Any problems that happen at the XPT will also display messages. Same kind of things that will set off the light on a FastPass reader in a lane. I have a quick video of a car wash that is using CarPix Touch and what does a normal use of CarPix Touch look like? I'm just going to show that off here and I'll narrate it. So you'll notice in lane 2, we got people who are coming through with plans, and in lane 1, somebody is putting money into the XPT like it's a vending machine. They're putting money in before they make a selection, right? They put $6 in cash in before they even selected something. Meanwhile, people are pulling up to that XPT2 lane and they're just being identified with their FastPass tags, their RFID tags, and the gates going up and entering them into queue. Okay, there are different icons on here, like you see these little arm icons that are on the top. These arm icons just indicate this is a member who's redeeming their plan, and the color can indicate what type of plan it is. Their names are displayed, and the names are collected from their credit cards as they use them at the pay station, or from information they might fill out as part of like an arm authorization slip. And as you see, like we've already queued up 6 cars before we've even sent the first car. And the car that's being sent at the head of the queue, like once we've hit the send button, we come up with a different screen that allows us to send retracts after that vehicle until the vehicle's gone into the tunnel sufficiently enough that it's just outside of the point of sale system and it's now part of the tunnel controller. You'll see this member here, it shows their vehicle as they attended with another picture of when they bought the plan to see if there's some sort of discrepancy between the two. And all you have to do is tap on the picture of the car that is the old picture of the car to show this is mismatched. And you can follow up on those kinds of things later. This car wash has retracts that are set up as like traits of a vehicle, right? So this car has a truck bed. This car has a visor, right? And I want my tunnel to do those different types of things. They also have some retracts that are set up as turn this thing off. I want this thing to be turned off when it gets into the tunnel. Yeah, and you may have noticed that the receipts show what the customer's doing and what the customer's purchased. These little icons here show what's happening in the moment, like is the gate up or is it down? Is the RFID reader scanning for the car? The little car pictures like, is there a car present at the XPT right now in case somebody's like stalled there? It's pretty neat stuff. CarPix terminals are super handy. I want to go back and sort of like bring us back to when I was talking about the basic terminals, to the terminal controller program. That terminal controller program, or like the cash register of SiteWatch, right, is it's got completely customizable pages that we can set up. Like you'll see in this one here in this picture, I've got something like 8 tabs. I could choose to have less than that. I could choose to have more than that. Each tab works as a separate page. Some of them, like customer, are dedicated pages that are made for entering customer information. Other ones, like wash, have our buttons set up on them that we use to sell the different items that we sell, whether they're services that we are doing to a car, washes, express details, or merchandise items, store stuff for sites that have lube, SiteWatch lube. It could be like lube parts, right? These buttons can be entering in a single item. They can do a lookup group from different items. They also have, there's built-in functionality to the terminal that will help give you information and things like that too. All these, this is the primary way in SiteWatch If I'm not an Express, like if I've got attended terminals, that I would enter my sales. Now, if I'm an Express, this might not be the primary way. The XBT is the primary way that transactions happen, but I can do this. I can use these terminals to do almost anything or at my site. If I need to fix a sale, if I need to, if I did a test and I need to avoid it, right? If I need to update a customer's information, if a customer has an expired credit card and I need to update their new credit card, all that kind of stuff can also be done at the terminal controller. I can make a deposit if I have a cash drawer, right? All those different things. And they just run on Windows. All those terminals computers are Windows computers. They're locked down and write protected so that they're in an environment where they will sort of always work. They're non-volatile, right? All of those little terminals are gonna use the terminal controller. And I'll give you a quick demo of that terminal controller too. Bear with me 1 second while I bring it over here. I've got a virtual machine that's running SiteWatch. And I'm just going to bring up the terminal controller and show you a very basic transaction. Now, my terminal controller, you'll see it defaults to my customer page here. one of the things I have to do when I first use my terminal controller is I have to make sure that I'm clocked in, and I have to make sure that I'm assigned to be the person who does the things in the sale, right? So I'm going to punch in. My employee number is 10. I'm Bobby Mitchell. That's our default employee that we use. And I've got to assign myself as the person who does everything, right? If I was at a full service car wash, I might not be assigned as the current user, the person who does everything. I might be assigned to a specific type of role. Think of like I'm a wash greeter. I make commission off of my conversion of customers to buy the better thing, right? I'm a cashier. I just take money. Then I might be just, I want to make sure I'm assigned the cashier so we can keep track of all the transactions I do and balance my cash drawer appropriately. So I'm just going to assign myself as current user just so I can make sure I can do everything. A wash sale is really simple, right? I'm just going to throw in this super wash, which is actually my better full service for $18. Wash automatically goes into the sale. You may see on prompt there's a particular feature that's doing some checking for a customer that there's no customer in this sale or associated with this sale right now. The sale has its own sale code. Any of the things I add into here will show up as like a kind of like a here's what the receipt's going to look like. And I can also go in here and I can expand out or delete things to see like what goes into making those things. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to hit cash and pay with exact change. Again, I'm a full service car wash or a full service / express. So I have a claim check for my full service washes, which just means that'll be like a little slip that prints out that I give to the customer. When they go to pay, they take that claim check to the cashier inside the lobby. And there's the customer's receipt. The logo is customizable. The messages that are on the receipt are all customizable. We can print additional copies of the receipt. And you may have also seen too, there was views that looked just like this that were little pop-ups, like logo downloaded. Those kinds of things might just be like alerts that I want to send. SiteWatch can use the same kind of mechanisms it uses to build a receipt, to build things to display on the screen, including little reports, right? If I want to see the statistics that I have, I can do like site stats and see, oh, here we go. We've watched one car this hour and one car all day. If I have a customer identified, I'm going to identify a customer using this enter license plate number button. And I just put in a license plate that I know is in the system. Oh, apparently it's new. Never mind. Let me put in a different one. That one's new too. I thought for sure those would be set up. Okay. I'm going to find a customer because we'll search for last name. Here we go. I found me. Test DT10. There we go. If put a customer into the sale, you'll notice that it gave me a pop-up that said the standard customer promo package was added. That just means that their automatic benefits were added into the sale. this customer is a monthly pass holder, and they have a monthly pass that gives them a best express wash. Okay. So there's just a quick demo of the terminal controller and how that works. Now, one of the things about SiteWatch, again, like, is that the reporting is fairly robust, right? We do have options for getting data out of the system directly, but there's so many reports in SiteWatch that will meet all the basic needs of a car washer that most people don't necessarily need to go that far. Two of the biggest ones are probably StatWatch and SiteWatch Web. Okay, just to give you a brief StatWatch thing here, let me bring up a screen and I will log into StatWatch to show you here. I'm gonna log into StatWatch. Gotta make sure I remember my password. Looking up my password here. I don't remember a single password anymore. There we go. It automatically brought it in. It didn't give me enough information though. So it's NCC demo, password, and that's my organization code, NCCWOH. So it's like my location code with just the first 6 letters. And if you don't have access to StatWatch right now, there's somebody at your organization who is the administrator for your organization and can add you in. The big idea behind StatWatch is that a lot of the information that happens at the terminal, when we make a sale, there's deep information, which is about like, what did they buy? How much was the value of that? Where does it go in the ledger, right? The accruals kind of stuff. But this is really just pulling in basic statistics. So when I make a sale, it also makes a little sales fact that says we washed a car, they spent this much money, right? And that kind of stuff gets sent up to StatWatch so that it can be aggregated and be updated, and it's very, very up to date, like 5 minutes or so that it's behind. So I can see at my North Coast Car Wash and Loop Center, NCB, that I've washed 5 cars this hour, and today I washed 22. And it says this week I've washed 22 because my work week starts on Monday. And I have this displayed to show sales dollars per car and also extra dollars per car. But instead of extra dollars per car, you can have it display total dollars as well, right? The key idea behind StatWatch isn't that it's like a report, like a holistic reporting that shows like how much money I've made, but it can show trends on how my things are going through, right? It can show how many cars have I washed right now? What's going on right now? What are my projections for my different profit centers? Right now, you see I'm in the site arm selection. I'm going to switch over to wash, and it gives me a projection based off of the number of cars I washed, what my day ought to look like. And that's based off of what I've done for the last 6 weeks. It's also based off of last year at this exact time, right? So not the exact same date, but the day of the week of that week last year. It's also based off of the weather. So like one of the reasons why my projections don't match my cars washed per hour is because this car wash isn't actually in Uniontown, Ohio. It's in the South, right? So it's a little bit different than its projections. And you'll notice I can also see things like who are the employees who are clocked in right now in SiteWatch. And if I wanted to, I could click on them and I could get their phone numbers. So I could give somebody a call and be like, we're having a slow day. If you want to head out early, go ahead, right? Or what else did you have to do? Or if I'm having a busy day and there's not enough people there, I can switch over to the little phone icon here and see who are all the people who could be clocked in right now, who are active employees at this site this is their home site. And how many hours have they worked so far this week, and if they're going to be in overtime, right? So there's pretty cool stuff. There's so much more to StatWatch that I would encourage you to attend our SiteWatcher reporting one, because we go a little bit more in depth into StatWatch. I want to also show off SiteWatch Web. SiteWatch Web is there are reports built into what's called Site Manager in SiteWatch. I just want to my SiteWatch Web link. SiteWatch Web takes some of those reports that are built into Site Manager plus some additional reports, and it puts them into something I can access on site just by typing in the name of the server computer, or that I can access from anywhere by going to SiteWatch.cloud. So if I go to SiteWatch.cloud and I'm registered as a user of SiteWatch Web, then I can put my information in, my login information here, and it will connect over the internet to the site. So pretty neat stuff, right? And I can get my big reports, like my financial reports, like a general sales report. I can get operations reports that are like, very similar to StatWatch, what's going on at the car wash today or on a given day. And I can do things like track my pass plans, my monthly passes, my unit plans, right? I can track all those different kinds of things and their usage, their recharges, the number of members that I have, the trends that I have, any churn that I have can all be tracked through these different reports. Trends in comparison is a great example for how I can see those different ways and how they moved. So like, what's my active membership count? Or alternately, I could look at just churn. Now, I've kind of glossed over this a little bit. Part of the magic of the point of sale and the workflows is customer identification nowadays. Our consumers who come to car washes, in the past 10 years, right, have been shown an experience that is truly magical. They drive up into a lane and the system identifies them and the gate goes up. So like magic, right? If you like if I go to McDonald's or Starbucks, right, I can do some really cool things with apps and different things like that. I can save a bunch of time, hemming and hawing and ordering. But at the car wash, the experience really is I'm in line for a short bit. I get up to the thing, it lets me into another line, and I go into the tunnel, right? Experiences of like total, how long am I on the lot? Like that sort of like what's the total lot time for car washes are very, very low. Car washes are so heavily automated that it is a magical type of experience. And that is really enabled by the different types of customer identification that are out there, right? FastPass on the right, our RFID system, is extremely fast and it is extremely accurate, right? FastPass tags those RFID tags are very easy to read. These systems boast, 99% read rates or higher, where 1 out of 100 customers may have an issue, or you may have other environmental issues that bring those down a little bit, like some interference or issues with, basic environmental stuff, right? Where I have to like put my hand over the tag and then it will scan. Fast ID though is quickly approaching that kind of like reliability. The license plate recognition. We use a special camera that does all of the work on the camera so that it can be installed in any lane that has SiteWatch or that has one of our other solutions like Patheon, so that it just works in a very similar kind of way. It sits back about 27 feet, 28 feet from where the kiosk actually is, and the car would be when they are lined up with the kiosk, to take a picture of the rear license plate and then process that image to see, okay, the license plate says this. And over time, those algorithms that process that image to get the license plate have gotten better and better and better. So nowadays, Fast ID is boasting a very, very similar 99% read rate. Now, these two systems are different in that they have labor that happens at different points of time, right? FastPass or just RFID systems, I have to affix an RFID sticker to the windshield in a specific spot, right, in the lower driver's side window, driver's side windshield, right? I have to have the customer pull up somewhere. They have to put that tag on there. Because they can't get that tag applied directly at the kiosk, maybe there's some stuff that has to happen, like they get assigned a temporary code in their initial sale of a monthly pass plan. Fast ID eliminates those, right? Because there's a little bit more chance that you get a misread with Fast ID because there's more environmental factors like light, the type of plate that it is, what state you're in, and whether the state has printed plates or if it has embossed plates, if it uses reflective paint or it doesn't, right? Those kinds of things can make misreads more common, so you may have to intervene when a customer comes to redeem the first few times. And SiteWatch is actually pretty smart, is when if you get a misread, there's a workflow at the pay station or at an attended terminal that can remember the misreads and allow that customer, if they get misread in the same way, to come through. So labor on FastPass, it's more upfront. I have to fix this tag. I kind of have to manage tags a little bit. FastID, I don't have to manage the tags, but maybe I have a little bit more misreads, right? They work out to be pretty even, but FastID enables a whole bunch of loyalty stuff that the FastPass tags, it's hard to do because there's a cost to those tags that get put onto the car. They're both amazing systems. FastID is the future, at least in the short term, right? There are other solutions that might be coming up and that are going to provide even cooler stuff, right? A lot of cars have ways of identifying themselves automatically without having to do anything. We may see more of that in the future. Now, I talked a little bit about Site Manager, and this is probably the last thing I'll talk about today. Site Manager is where all of the configuration to SiteWatch happens. You may not have access to this, but it's probably good that you're aware that this is a thing. On the server computer that lives in the office at the site, right, there is where SiteWatch runs, and also on manager workstations, you'll have something called Site Manager, which allows you to do different things like configure terminals, right? I want to change the way this terminal works in some way, add tabs to the pages, change buttons, right? All those different kinds of things are done in Site Manager. If I need to add a peripheral, a new printer, or a second printer to print a special form, all that kind of stuff's done in Site Manager. If I have new sales items that I want to sell, whether they're merchandise or if I'm offering new services, those are all done in Site Manager. Promotions are done in Site Manager. Almost anything that could go into a sale is done there. And it has a lot of reports as well. Like some of the reports that are in SiteWatch Web are also in Site Manager or are configured in Site Manager. The main report for SiteWatch for like financial data, and probably the main like operations report, is the general sales report. And I want to show you that. So in Site Manager, it's going to have Bobby log into Site Manager for us. It's not a very exciting program, right? It's kind of a gray expanse. It's a very 90s paradigm. SiteWatch is 25 years old or 27 years old now, right? It's been improved continuously over those 27 years, but it does feel a little bit long in the tooth sometimes. This is one example. Site Manager is maybe a little blank as a canvas, right? But we have this context menu at the top where we can do different things. Like we have file, edit, setup, reports. Setup is where all the configuration happens, and they're broken down into different categories. Reports is where I can run reports to see different information. So I'm going to go to reports, sales stats and inventory, and then general sales. By default, it's going to run just for today. And you'll see the one wash that I rang, that better full service, is actually showing up here. And I have my site configured in a certain way where my $18 wash split into a $15 good full service, right? The base wash for my full service business, and a $3 extra service package, right? That this is essentially one wash that was split up into two different pieces. Let me see if I can show you in that sale. This is the one sale. It's $18. It shows up as $18 paid in cash, right? If I click this little expand button, it'll show that it's actually made up of different items. SiteWatch can have very robust reporting just based off the way you configure items and the way that this report is configured. Report's actually configurable too. Pretty cool. Things like items are set up in setup, sales items, categories, and reports, and then items and barcodes. This is where all the items, the sales items that are set up in the system. So they're broken up into different little folders here that are called report categories that correspond to those reports on the general sales report. Pretty neat stuff. Things like terminals are set up here, and also terminal pages. So like if I was going to configure new buttons or move buttons around. All that kind of stuff is done in Site Manager. Even things like XPT pages are done in this terminal pages editor, where I can go in and I can change my terminal, my button layouts. I can add a new background. I can also program some of the functionality directly in here. If you don't know what you're doing, this kind of stuff can be very intimidating, which is why we have one of the reasons why we have such a big support base in our Akron, Ohio headquarters. If you're not familiar with the support phone numbers, it's 330-645-3299, right? It's on our website. You can also email knowledgecenter@drb.com. And if you call up to support, they can add items for you. They can walk you through how to add an item. We also have DRB University items, basic items set training that we do as well as part of DRB University. So we've got about 18 minutes left in our allotted hour. Before I take any additional questions that you guys may have, I want you, I'm asking you to please, if you've got a smartphone and you can scan a QR code, scan the QR code and fill out a really short survey for me. Okay, just 2 questions. You don't have to fill it out by the end of this, but if you can fill this out for us, any feedback you can give us is positive feedback to us, right? If there's something you liked about this training or something you hated about this training, you felt like it did not go as deep, it was too short, it was too long, whatever you feel about it, that is valuable to us, because we can only make our training better through feedback from you guys directly. But yeah, scan that, queue it up, and if you don't fill it out right this second, that's fine as well. You can fill it out later on. And I want to open up the floor to any questions that you guys have now. Anything that you're interested in. It can be about anything related to SiteWatch. This is a good question. What would the conversion to FastID be like from FastPass readers? That's a fantastic question. I like that. So if I wanted to convert, it's like, say I have a site that's using FastPass, right? We have those stickers. The conversion would usually start with a conversation with your salesperson, right? If you don't know who your salesperson is for your site, there on our contact us page on our website, they'll have like a listing of the different regions of the country and who the salesperson is and their direct phone numbers. But technically, what does that look like? There's a process where when you're switching, you run with both systems for a period of time. And that period of time where you're running with both systems will allow the terminal to scan the RFID tags for existing members, and then also associate a license plate with them before it opens the gate and lets them through. So their sale can happen normally, but it's going to hold just a second while it's making sure that it gets the license plate for that customer. And then once you've done that for all of your members, you can start taking the RFID readers offline and then just using the license plate readers and making sure that if there are any issues, right, we can address those issues in between. We can also have a situation where we run with both of them. If you find that like there are certain cars and customers or plates in your state that just don't ever work right, and you want to make sure that these folks have a great experience when they come through and they had a great one with FastPass, you can run with both of them, and it's called Total ID. It just doesn't do that period of time where it's waiting to make sure that it's got both. It'll switch to a mode where it's like whichever one gets read first puts the car into the sale, opens the gate, puts them into the queue. So usually that process is a month. Again, like the labor differences, you may find that like you need this means that I need to have more people at the site on my busy times, or I have to have people outside more. So it's like a little bit of a trade-off, and you may have to play around with that too. There is also features that are built into FastID that can allow for, if there are situations where you can't do that in like the short term, where you can make it so that it runs against the list of customers instead of like when it reads the license plate, it just gets it as it is. It'll sort of say, does this license plate actually exist in the database? Is this actually a license plate? It can also check for like, is one of the letters off, right? Is this a that's being read as a 4, or is this a B that's being read as an 8? Those kinds of things are they help enable those kinds of situations. Beautiful question. Do you think I answered it sufficiently, or do you have anything else there? Amanda, I see you have your hand raised. What's your question?
Yeah. So I have a couple, but the first one, have you found with the FastPass readers, we have a couple of our members that we have literally put that FastPass in different areas on the windshield of the car, and it just won't read. And it seems to happen most with, there's a few Teslas and Jaguars that we just cannot get that FastPass reader, the RFD reader, to read the tags on the windshields.
It's another great question, right? I want to point you to it. I'm going to sort of like not answer your question directly, but back up a little bit and show you a couple of resources and then circle back around, right? So there's a couple so like those FastPass tags, those RFID tags, right? The way they work is they get like energized by the reader. Like it's essentially microwave radiation, although not really microwave, like it's not the same intensity, that is being directed towards that vehicle, towards that lower left-hand corner of the windshield, lower driver's side corner of the windshield. Yes, see, Ivan's already got my answer on here. And the windshield's part of the equation for those tags that go on the inside of the windshield. There are tags that can go on the outside that don't necessarily need the windshield to be read properly. And there are also some other solutions that are out there too. Like if you have a problem car, the first thing that I would do is I would like Google the Florida SunPass website, because they're one of the few like state institutions that uses passive tags. And SunPass has a list of cars of like where tags work best on the car, right? So if I go on here and where to purchase, I think is where there. Nope. Windshield installation. Here you go. So this windshield installation page has different makes, and under each make, if you click on one, will tell you the model where the task is most likely to work.
Okay.
Right? So this is great information. It will tell you though that there are like same thing. If there's a unique windshield feature that will make a passive tag like we use for FastPass not work. Like for instance, the Oldsmobile 88 from 1992 has a heater in the windshield that will interfere with it, right? Like it'll let you know, and usually it'll tell you like this car is going to have a problem, right? Now we don't have these bumper mount transponders, but we do have these these outside tags, these external tags, and I want to show you those on our website. I'm pretty certain this is where it is. There's a link in here. Tag options. Yep. So these are the different types of FastPass tags, right? This is the interior FastPass tag. It's a generic one. There are also these two exterior tags that are available, either in generic or in custom printing as well. They cost a little bit more per tag, but these can be placed any place on the car. So if they have like a plastic bumper, you can put them on the bumper. The clear ones are commonly used for like the side mirrors. Put it on the side mirror. It's roughly in the same kind of area. I've seen people use them on wheel wells and things like that. You may have to replace them more often in those kinds of places, but they're more likely to read by a lot.
Huh. Okay. Well, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the way I got to this, I can send you guys a link too, is just on the DRB website, I went under tunnel and then point of sale, SiteWatch, and then vehicle identification. And then down at the bottom of the page, it shows how it works. There's a C tag options link right there. And I'll drop that link into the chat too.
Okay.
That
Thank
answers your
you.
question good? My pleasure.
Yeah, it did. It did well. And then one other little question. When you were talking about the SiteWatch web, and you had said something about anybody that's a user already in the SiteWatch web can go on their smartphone and pull up
Yes.
the SiteWatch. What was that? What was you talking about there? I mean, on my phone, because I'm actually the manager at
Yeah.
my wash, and that would
So
be so helpful if I could get that like on my days off.
yeah, if you're set up in the SiteWatch web on the site, like if you can
Yes,
go to this on site,
yes.
you can probably go to the web version. You just have to put in your employee number and the password you use for SiteWatch web and your location code. So the full location code, the DRB location code. So like mine was NCCWOH001, right?
Yes.
You just have to put that in and then it should allow you to get through. Now you may not have access because by default when you're registered for this, you do have access, okay? And it's going to be whatever access you have normally at the site. If you
Hmm.
need to have more access given, like whoever's the admin, or if you're the manager, you're the person who would handle this normally, you can
Yeah.
call into support and they can help figure out what's going on.
Okay.
But just
I
generally
think that I'm
under,
actually the administrator on that
are
page.
you? Yeah, you'll see
Yes.
if you go into the employee records and you look at your employee, it'll have a little cloud next to it that lets you know that you can access it from the sitewatch.cloud
Okay.
website.
All right. Great. Thank you. That was helpful as well. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Do anybody else have any other questions? Don't be shy. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we'll end it here. Thank you guys for attending. Appreciate you coming. If you can, fill out that survey
Thank you
for
very
us.
much.
Oh, it's my pleasure, okay? Have a good one and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.